Today on the 8-0 Brew, we're all about Burlington, baby, loading you up with a true taste of Vermont beer. On one end, you have Switchback, who's known for their unfiltered, naturally carbonated line of beers. With a huge distribution reach, a large brewery, and a very popular line of cold ones, Switchback is the staple in the Vermont brew scene. So stick with us as we take you through Vermont's brewers on the 8-0 Brew. Beer is the world's most widely consumed alcoholic beverage, and the third most popular drink overall, after water and tea, of course. At any given time, 0.7% of the world population is drunk. That means that 50 million people are drunk right now, and beer is obviously the main contributor to the drunkenness. And I'll add to that. Today we traveled to Burlington, Vermont, to visit one of Vermont's most well-known and popular breweries, Switchback Brewing. Switchback Brewing started in 2002 by Bill Cherry and his best friend Jeff. They create an unfiltered, naturally carbonated beer. They bottle it, they barrel it, and you can find it in a pub right near you. Today we'll catch up with senior brewer Jeff Tomaino. He's going to walk us through the process of brewing Switchback Ale, and he'll also take us a little bit behind the scenes.
Switchback is a pretty traditional kind of company. There's a thing called Reinheitsgebot from Germany, which is the German purity laws. So Reinheitsgebot is about 4 basic ingredients that go into beer. There's water, there's yeast, there's hops, and there's malt.
After that, we're going to get together with the legend, Bill Cherry, the founder and senior brewmaster here at Switchback. He's going to give us the lowdown as to how things all got started in 2002 with Switchback Ale, going right on into the future.
I was the only person working in here for the first 2 years, just some very long 17-hour days in here. And I used to have to bring my dog to work just because I didn't know how else I could let him out, because I was at the brewery all the time.
Rounding out our tour here at Switchback Brewing is the tasting room. I'm going to hook up with Sara Diaz. She's the manager here. Going to do a little sampling of the Switchback Ale, the Citra-Pils, and the Connector IPA on this episode of the 8-0 Brew. So what is your favorite thing if you had to describe Switchback beer?
It's made in Vermont. It's the best part.
Bingo, made in Vermont. He's going to walk us through the process of brewing Switchback Ale, and he'll also take us a little bit behind the scenes. All right, we're here with a member of the senior brewing team, Dan, here at Switchback Brewing. Dan, so tell us about flavoring for Switchback Ale.
Okay. Switchback is a pretty traditional kind of company. There's a thing called Reinheitsgebot from Germany, which is the German purity laws. We don't necessarily go by those, but we like to keep it as simple as possible. So Reinheitsgebot is about 4 basic ingredients that go into beer. There's water, there's yeast, there's hops, and there's malt. So what we have here is we have hops, we have pelletized hops, we have whole cone hops, we have flaked wheat, and then we have our husked malt. This particular husked malt is the black malt. This needs to go through the mill before it can be utilized. And they get added at different phases during the process. So we have different tanks that do different things. We have 4 tanks. It's a 66 barrel system. The benefit of having 4 tanks is not only do we have huge tanks that accommodate the size of the batch, but we actually need to get multiple batches going at once to fill our fermenters. So one tank is for like enzymatic extraction. Then we have one tank that kind of separates the solids from the liquids. We have the kettle tank, which boils the liquid and sterilizes it. And it's also where we do our hop additions. And then we have the final tank, which is the whirlpooling tank, which essentially the whirlpooling action itself takes any solid unfermentables and spins it to the center, and then it gets exposed to the yeast in the fermenting vessel, and bam, what you get there, once you combine all of those elements, is Switchback Original.
And then we drink it.
And then we drink it. Yep.
Right now we're just kind of cruising the streets here in Burlington, just ran into my new best friend. You were just telling me a little bit about Switchback Brewery. What was your vibe on that?
I think it is one of the token examples of what Vermont is made out of. Honestly, it just is the symbol of fresh tracks down a mountain trail, and there's nothing like Switchback, man. You come to Vermont, you expect to get Switchback.
That's the way I like to talk. That when you come to Vermont, you expect to get Switchback. Let's go get one right now. We're out of here.
Let's go.
So let's talk also too a little bit about one of our brands that you have here, the Citra-Pils.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
Citra-Pils is delicious. It has a really crisp, kind of citrusy character, not from fruit, not from anything we add. That's specifically from the hop character, which we do very different kinds of, a different process called dry hopping, which is after the beer is finished. And we have a machine called the LEM. It's named after the Lunar Excursion module from the old Apollo program, because it's a kind of a spindly looking apparatus that we can wheel around and hook up the tanks, pack it up with hops, and then run a cycle of the liquid through it. So it's just going through those hops and extracting all of those delicious flavor characteristics from the hops and bringing it back into the beer, and then we send it to the packaging tank. None of the beers we do here are filtered.
And then carbonation happens
Naturally.
There we go.
Yep, totally naturally. Yep, our tanks are specifically designed to be pressure rated, which is unusual for a lot of breweries, because what happens is we build up CO2 headspace pressure, and then once we cool the liquid naturally absorbs CO2 at about 4 degrees Celsius. So that's how we absorb the CO2, and then it translates to the packaging tank.
Wow, man, I feel like I just went to like brewing university.
Yeah,
That's
it's pretty
amazing.
complicated. Yep, there's a lot to it. But I tell you, a lot of the stuff that we take for granted, that science has kind of come along and shown the reason why. You know, brewers have been doing this stuff for a really long time without the knowledge of why. They just knew it worked. So, you know, when it works, you don't change it.
Today we'll catch up with the legend Bill Cherry, the founder and senior brewmaster here at Switchback. He's going to give us the lowdown as to how things all got started in 2002 with Switchback Ale, going right on into the future. So we're here with Bill Cherry, founder and brewmaster here at Switchback Brewery. Tell us a little bit about how you got Switchback started.
How we got Switchback started? Well, these were the good old days, and in 2002, the big question back then was why anybody would want to start a brewery, because the late 90s there had been a lot of brewery failures. We kind of hit this bubble and it had burst, and so we literally grew on the backs of that. So our first equipment came from a brewery in Arizona.
So you didn't just say, hey, I'm going to open up a brewery because everybody else is failing. What was
That's right.
your mindset?
I had a passion for beer and wanted to get in the business. I wrote to some people at Coors and a couple of the breweries. They were the only ones I even knew to write to. And a nice gentleman told me all about a brewing school out in UC Davis. And off I went, and I always laugh about, I laugh about this more than anything because no one can believe it's true, but I have a master's degree in beer brewing now and never looked back.
So you went basically from like that starving artist, if you will, to rock star status all on your own.
Ah, okay, sure, if you want to put it that way.
Shut down by the big dogs, and then you're like, all right, well then I'll go do it myself.
Yeah, I always knew from the beginning it was a passion of having There's something about craft brewing, and with Boulevard and here at Switchback as well, I think everybody can feel that as a group, we all have this common purpose, and there's nothing more fun than coming to work, and everybody's just so focused and so into what they're doing.
What is your favorite part of coming to work? What's the best part of being here at Switchback?
The best part of being here is at the end of the day when I'm off shift, I can have a beer.
Just one?
For me, it's the people in the process and the dedication. It's that focus. We really live and breathe every minute of the day with our focus of what will do the best thing for our beer, because we think that kind of my motto since the day I started that calmed me down was if you take care of the beer, everything else will just work out.
So talk about the name. Switchback as a name, as the brand. Where'd that come from?
Well, I'll tell you what, there's nothing harder than coming up with a name. And Switchback came about just from my passion for outdoors in Vermont, big into hiking and cycling and skiing and everything, and it literally, to get real literal, there's a mountain stage cycling race that finishes after 67 miles. It finishes on the Appalachian Gap on Route 17.
Oh, wow.
And it is after that many miles to go on a 20% grade on these switchbacks. And one day, for some reason in my mind, I thought of that curvy road as a switchback. I wouldn't normally, but that day I did, and I was like, oh, I like that.
So let's talk a little bit about how things have evolved since 2002, when we got things rolling around here, to present day.
Yeah. Well, we've taken the journey a lot of brewers have over the years, which is it takes on a life of its own. Right. So I think I mentioned before, I was all by myself in the beginning, hoping desperately that someday I could get someone in here to help me. With that, I've got employees and everything that have grown with the brewery now. I've got employees that have been here like a dozen years. And as of February, I decided to announce my retirement in 15 years. So I'm here for another 15 years, but we know that as of now, I don't own the company anymore because I sold it to the employees.
Yeah. Well, hey, it sounds like it's been a great first 15 years.
Yeah.
And you look genuinely happy with how things are, and that's probably the biggest thing. With that, good luck the next 15, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Rounding out our tour here at Switchback Brewing is the tasting room. I'm going to hook up with Sara Diaz. She's the manager here. Going to do a little sampling of the Switchback Ale, the Citra-Pils, and the Connector IPA. All right, man, so here we are in the tasting room. I've got Sara Diaz with me, the manager here at the tasting room. Sara, tell me about what goes on here.
Oh man, this is where we pour the beers, we drink them up, talk about them, let people know kind of what makes Switchback special, what makes us unique in the market. Our Switchback Ale has been the most popular draft beer in the state since 2006, so.
Well, let's start pouring some up, man.
Heck yeah.
I'm gonna sip while you talk.
All right.
Tell me about that one.
So our Switchbacks are flagship beer. It's what we started with back in 2002. Like I said, super popular on draft in the state, kind of that Vermont staple beer for a lot of folks. It's unfiltered, naturally carbonated, definitely a unique kind of beer in the market. Designed as a flavor profile beer, so it actually kind of falls in between categories. But it's just really well balanced. You got 5 different malts, 4 hops, so a little bit of everything going on in there. So, like I said, complex recipe, but super easy drinking beer. So most people, when they're designing a beer flavor, they're kind of thinking in their mind, I want to make a pale ale or I want to make a stout. For our Switchback, the founder, when he was coming up with the recipe, wasn't thinking about it like that. He just wanted to make a flavorful, drinkable beer that people would be able to enjoy the way a brewer does right off the tank. So we left it unfiltered, allowed it to be naturally carbonated, and what you've got, like I said, complex beer, super easy drinking.
What we've got right now is a tease, as it's so far away from me.
I'll bring it in close.
All right, so let's talk about first one up.
Yeah, so that's the Switchback Ale. It's the one I've been discussing most.
I had like a half a dozen of these last night.
Right, so that's the thing. Kind of never gets old if you're looking at the tap handles. It's always a good choice. I've been
What's
here
next
for almost 2 years and it's still not old, you know?
Right.
So it'll tell you something. So next you got our Citra-Pils. It's our next all year round beer. So we've got our go-to ale. This is our go-to lager. Nice crisp Pilsner, so light in body, super easy drinking, but you got a nice kind of hop bite up front, a little citrusy
I was just gonna say, I can feel that.
Yeah, so it's all the hops. We don't add anything to the beer, just that hop flavor going.
I thought that was going to be my favorite, but I'm not sure yet.
I mean, we're just getting started.
Yeah.
You know?
What's our next one up?
Connector IPA. It's our only IPA that we make here. Kind of in the New England style. You get some nice fruity, tropical notes up front. A little bit of pininess will kind of round the beer out. And while there's a bitterness that you kind of want from your IPA, it doesn't sit, linger on your palate, dry you out, making it really approachable for that style.
It's definitely got that pine taste to it. What creates that?
It's the Centennial hops.
Okay.
So that's a later addition hop. You get a nice aromas to that beer. And then on the end, our Blackstrap Ale. It's actually our newest beer.
Blackstrap?
Blackstrap Ale.
I like that name.
It's kind of got that molassesy sweetness. So a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of smoke. It's part of our Flint on Fire series, a smoked beer series. We got a robust kind of body to it.
Yeah, it is.
But then that subtle smokiness, subtle sweetness, they really balance each other out.
As you're experimenting with some different beers.
Yeah,
That's what we like to
trying
hear.
some different out.
Yep, innovation and new stuff right to you from here at Switchback Brewery. Yeah, man, it's been a great day here at Switchback Brewery. Got a chance to go behind the scenes and learn all about their brewing process. Also got a chance to sample some of their great beers as well as their Switchback Ale, which is their signature brew, here on the 80 Brew. Met some of my new best friends here at the brewery as well. Rounding out our tour here at Switchback Ale, we're gonna pop into the tasting room, meet up with one more time.